Your energy goes wherever your attention goes. That it's actually getting yourself into what Tony Robbins calls a peak physical state. The combination is like mind-blowing. Like you literally have no choice but to be in this totally energized and positive state.
I'm Stephanie Keith.
And I am Tara Manjekovic.
And we are unapologetically outspoken. Hey, everybody. Welcome to our Motivation Manifestation Monday. And today, Stephanie and I are going to talk a little bit about energy. And this is something that was recently reinforced for me when I attended a virtual online Tony Robbins seminar about a week and a half ago. And energy basically goes hand in hand with the law of attraction because your energy goes wherever your attention goes. And before I attended the seminar, I felt like this is a concept that I'm pretty familiar with because I've been practicing the law of attraction for the past couple of years. But something about the way attention was focused on the importance of being high energy in this seminar just kind of put a different spin on things for me. And it made me realize how truly critical it is to be in the right state of energy in order to create and live your best fucking life, which is what Stephanie and I are all about with this podcast. So it's not just deciding on a mindset, it's actually getting yourself into what Tony Robbins calls a peak physical state. And that's almost like your whole body is almost electrified with like this positive energy. And the simple way that he puts it is by saying that energy is everything. Like if you're not getting the results that you want in life, it's because your energy is low. And by low energy, that means basically anything that results in a low vibration with the way you feel. So like feelings of fear, uncertainty, hesitation, lack, scarcity, anger, sadness, those are all like low energy feelings. And one of the things that he talked about in this recent seminar was how like the COVID pandemic obviously created a lot of low energy, and it resulted in this huge increase in people having these feelings of uncertainty and scarcity and fear. And I know that at least for me, these low energy feelings have become even more prevalent and more difficult to combat because I'm constantly like upset or angry or concerned or worried about how the Biden administration is like purposely destroying our country and all the crazy shit that's going on in the world right now. So it will give me sometimes like pretty intense feelings of anxiety. And taking this seminar kind of like brought a lot of that to light for me in terms of energy. So Stephanie, I know you did a Tony Robbins seminar a few years ago, but was yours before the pandemic, and did he make those same kind of comparisons in yours?
Yeah, so my seminar was at the height of the pandemic. It was actually the first time he did it virtually.
Okay.
So it was a very big point that he made multiple times throughout the few days that we did it, using his own example of not being able to hold these famous in-person events that we know him for, yet still figuring out a way to make it happen and get creative. And at that time, I know it's like hard to imagine, but at that time, like people still weren't really using Zoom like they are now. Like that was still kind of a new thing we were all learning. And so he had to like quickly figure it out, and he could have canceled. And a lot of people did. A lot of big speakers did cancel their events, but he made it happen. And it really energized me. Like it gave me so much hope during that time, because that was when we still didn't know. I mean, we still thought, like I thought we were all going to die because my husband was a respiratory therapist and we didn't know. Like at that point they were saying people are filling up refrigerated trucks with bodies, and so it like I was so freaked out. But going through that, it really just like painted the picture of like life is going to have things like this. Like as human beings, we go through shit. Okay. And I personally believe that we go through shit because it's all a learning process and it's a part of growth. And like, how do you have gratitude for when it's good if you've never experienced the opposite of that? But with that aside, like he really showed me that you've got two options. You can sit around and just let it happen, or you can take things in your own hands. And that was where, like, I've always been one to take things into my own hands, but it was like, even in this situation with the pandemic where things felt completely out of my control, I was like, you know what? Like, I can take control over me and my energy and how I feel. And
Mhm.
I want to just back up a second because I always forget that we've got listeners that aren't that familiar with manifestation in the same
Right.
way of like, because I talk about it all the time on my other podcast. So I just want to like make the point that a lot of people think that manifestation is about doing, like you're doing something, you're manifesting something, but it's really not. It's actually about being. And what does that mean? It means that your energetic vibration creates your reality. That is what, when you have an energetic vibration, things of that equal energetic vibration are attracted into your life. And your subconscious is looking for things that match that. And so your thoughts and your feelings that you hold over time play into your energetic vibration. So whenever we talk about manifesting, I just want everyone to realize like it's not anything specific that you have to do. It's more about your state of being. And that's why I love this episode, because I do think that Tony Robbins was like way ahead of his time with this concept of energy creating your reality and how to take that personal control over your energy. And what was so cool about going through this during the pandemic was the energy in the world was like just totally engulfed in fear and anxiety. And I already am a person that struggles with anxiety. I always have. And I had a newborn at the time, and I had a husband working in the hospital, but I still found a way to take control of my energy and make it the best I possibly could. That's the power of understanding this and relying on yourself instead of all these external things happening. And I think that that's where I find this balance with this podcast, because it's
Yeah.
like, you know, you want to be informed, but you also don't want to get totally sucked into the negativity happening in the world. And that's really why I just flat out avoided politics for most of my life. But then during that same time in 2020, when I started seeing our freedoms being stripped away, that's when I got this like inner knowing that I want to do something about it. But I didn't. I didn't because of fear of being canceled. And so now that like I'm finally doing this podcast and speaking out about it, I think it really is helping me counteract any negative feelings around what's happening, because it's giving me a purpose. It's helping me feel empowered to be like outspoken about it, to take a stand against it. And I just think that the Tony Robbins seminar was really what helped me shift that perspective from reacting to the external world versus like looking at myself personally and how I emotionally respond to it. And it's that whole idea we've talked about many times of responsibility of self,
Yeah.
and knowing that like you have responsibility of yourself with everything, including your happiness, your emotions, and your energy. And that's really like the key point that I took away from it.
Yeah, it was really cool because our experiences are kind of flip-flopped, because during the height of the pandemic, I really didn't have much anxiety because I was still going to work every day. I was doing everything as normal. I was dealing with the same shit, and I was constantly surrounded by like just the norm of police work. And so I think it was almost surreal for me because it didn't necessarily change my day to day. And it wasn't until this like complete downfall of our country over the last 2 years that I really started getting in that state of super anxiety. Like, obviously, my energy was low enough during the pandemic or the after effects of the pandemic that I left my career because of it. And that, all that anger that I felt and that need to speak out. But I honestly think that this is more significant for me right now because of everything that's going on in the world. And so, we've talked about how we can do different things to put ourselves in like that high vibe positive mindset. Like that's the whole purpose of these motivation manifestation Monday episodes. But there was something for me that was like so powerful about the way Tony Robbins puts it all together, because he's focused on this like trifold combination of meditation, physical exercise, and music. And we've discussed this before. Meditation is not my thing, and I find it very difficult to concentrate, but doing it in that seminar kind of shifted things for me, because when you combine these three concepts over and over throughout the 4 days of the seminar, and it's like you are almost doing them simultaneously at some points or one right after the other, and the combination is like mind blowing. Like you literally have no choice but to be in this totally energized and positive state. And with the meditation, you're focusing your mind, and you're taking control of your thoughts. And then you're doing the physical exercise, which puts you in that state of adrenaline where your heart's pumping and your brain is like working on overtime. And that's why, like they say, you sometimes get these great ideas when you're running on the treadmill, or you're out in nature taking a walk, or you suddenly come up with an answer to a problem, because of that, you're doing that activity and your brain's going. And then throwing in the music is so huge, because when we hear pumped up, energized music that we like, it increases dopamine, or our brain releases that dopamine. And it's like the happiness chemical. So this expands our cognitive range and increases our energy and focus. So combining these three practices together is like a serious energy powerhouse.
Yeah. And like little fun fact with Tony Robbins and that music. So you know how like during the seminar, you're doing all these things and you get in what he calls that peak state.
Mm-hmm.
And then he plays like certain songs during that peak state. So now, like Tara, if you were to hear that song like right now, you would instantly go into that peak state, which is so cool. And like any of us can do this. It's you're just basically pairing that emotion, that feeling, that vibration with a song or with a scent. They call it anchoring. But it's a really cool way to just see like how you can start shifting your energy super quickly. Just like when you hear a song from, when you were in high school, and like all of a sudden it brings back all these emotions and stuff. It's like the same idea. But I am telling you what, nothing was more effective for me, especially around meditation, than that morning priming exercise. In fact, I started doing it again after you started talking about it. I don't even know why I ever stopped, probably when I had Aiden, but I started doing it again because I remember how powerful that was for me. And I actually found a video that I posted in Patreon if anyone wants to try it. But it's basically combining all of those things into a morning practice. And I'm the same way, where I don't like just sitting quietly and meditating. And I feel like he's so good at guiding you and then
Yes.
bringing that physical component into it. So you do like that quick breath work, and it kind of like pumps up that feeling. And it's like he directs you towards that. He tells you, like, think about it. Like, what are you feeling right now? Or are you feeling sort of this tingling sensation? Maybe you even have a smile on your face all of a sudden. And that's really when I made the connection of like how quickly my energy and my vibration could shift just with these little practices. So that was a life-changing one. And I'm going to keep doing it every morning.
Yeah, I'm guessing some of our listeners probably don't really understand what morning priming is. Like Stephanie said, if you go on our Patreon, you can even get videos on YouTube, but it's a combination of like starting off with this breath work, and then it's like a meditative gratitude practice. But like Stephanie was saying, he's guiding you through it with these visualizations that are resulting in like physical sensations in your body or physical expressions on your face. And it's like 10-15 minutes, and you can actually shorten it if you want to. But I committed to, like, after the seminar, I said, okay, I'm going to do this morning priming because it really is a game changer. And I've been doing the morning priming, and then I follow that right afterwards with like 5 minutes of dancing around, listening to the songs that I liked from the seminar. Like you can go on like Spotify or Apple iTunes or whatever. And I think if you search like Tony Robbins, UPW, there's people have made multiple playlists. And so I took like the top 5 songs that I liked from the seminar that are actually songs I like anyway. And I made like a tiny playlist with them. And I'll just go outside or in my living room or whatever. And 2 to 5 minutes, just like right after the priming, just being in that super high energy, motivated state from listening to the music. So it really is like super powerful. And like being in that energy of feeling gratitude is what is the game changer for me. And, you know, everything basically comes down to deciding that you want to raise your energy. And honestly, sometimes I don't feel like I want to raise my energy. And I don't feel like trying to be happy or positive or high vibe. And that's what's so cool about this priming exercise, because regardless of how I feel when I wake up, if I just make myself do this priming, it like flips the switch in my brain of being low energy and starting to really focus on that gratitude puts me in a totally different energy. And then I get into that peak state, even if I don't want to, right? So
Yep.
The thing with energy though is it's a learned and developed habit. It's not always something that comes automatically. And I think there's this bit of a misconception with law of attraction that if you just tell yourself you're going to feel a certain way, and then that's it, and then you just feel it. Like if I just say I'm going to be happy, then it's that simple and I'll just be happy. But I personally, for me, it doesn't always work that way. Like sometimes I can just decide and like get myself in that mode. But honestly, changing your energy isn't always just about speaking it into existence. Sometimes you have to combine that speaking with action to make it happen. And that's where this process with the meditation and the dancing or jumping around and listening to music, that all comes into play because you're actively raising your energy to a higher state. And that's what makes it so powerful.
Yeah, and it's something that anyone can do. And I didn't know that. Like growing up, really up until, I don't know, a few years ago, I just thought that people were just either like born happy or born like negative. Like I thought it was
Right.
more of like a genetic thing or, you know, maybe how you were raised. I didn't realize how everyone has the power to shift that. You could shift your energy, your thoughts, your feelings. But like you said, Tara, it's a habit. And it's not something that you try once and then just decide, you know what, it's not working for me. Like you have to get through that uncomfortableness of doing something different and make it a part of your daily routine. And then eventually it just becomes part of you. It just becomes part of like who you are. And like just like I said with manifesting, it's like your state of being starts to shift. And the other thing I didn't realize for a long time was that it takes just as much energy, actually, probably more, to be in this like pissed off negative state all the time than it does to just be positive and happy. And the people that are super happy and positive all the time, like they're very intentional on choosing where to focus their energy. And that's the other thing. It's like we all have the ability to shift our thoughts, and it takes some practice. And it's, again, it's a habit, but you can intentionally decide like what you're going to focus on, what you're going to tune into, and what you're going to let go. And anyone can do it. But again, it's back to that taking responsibility over your life. Like no one is going to come and do this for you. And we're all experiencing the external world and these things that are happening, but it's up to you to like take your energy and your feelings and your thoughts and create something that you want. No one's going to hold your hand through the process. Like you've got to make the decision that you're going to take your life in your own hands. And I think that was a big wake up call for me. And hopefully there's someone listening right now and that's a little bit of a wake up call for you and just deciding like, all right, I'm gonna play around with this and see what shifts, see what changes in my life. Cause I think you'll be really surprised at how it impacts everything, every area of life, if you can just start shifting your energy.
Yeah. And like we were saying, commit to doing it for a week or so and see what happens, because you may not get a sudden shift. It may take some time because, again, it is something that you have to turn into a habit. So just give it a chance.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that gives you guys some homework this week that's a little bit fun and motivating. Like I said, I would check out the priming exercise just because I do think it's a really easy thing because he guides you through it every step of the way, and you're going to love it. You're going to love the way you feel. So thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you back here for our Weird Wednesday episode. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend, and don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you get our latest episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And if you could, please rate and review the show. We are going to be reading every single review, and I would love it if you hopped over to Instagram at Unapologetically Outspoken and say hi. We want to see who's out there and start a conversation, plus get all of the topics that you want us to talk about next. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.